I'm Dan Murphy, and I am here with some guests to talk about the Caryl Community Center renovations. So, to my left is Ford Spalding, who is the Caryl Community Center Committee Chair. We have Valerie Lynn from the Park and Recreation Commission, and Joanne Conley from the Council on Aging. So let's start with you, Ford. Can you give us a little background about this 19-year effort?
It's been a long time, Dan. Thank you. Since 2001, the town took over the former Chickering Elementary School building from the Dover School Department, and it has been since renamed the Caryl Community Center building. And it currently houses the Council on Aging offices, Park and Recreation offices, and provides their services opportunities for both departments. It leases space. The building leases space to two preschool entities, a dance instructor, spin and rowing entity, and a martial arts program. It provides rehearsal space for the Dover Foundation and open fields, and finally it has storage space. It's an extremely active building. Since 2006, there have been several efforts to upgrade the building. The footprint of the current building is 40,982 square feet. The first wing was built in 1931, and the second in 71 after a fire. Since that date, all that has been done is to maintain the building and essential repairs. In 2006, there was a committee that proposed a new building. Never saw the light of day, didn't even get to a town meeting. Everybody said it was too expensive, and at that time it was an $18 million building for about 50,000 square feet. It had a gym included in that building. From 2008 to 2011, the membrane of the roof and shingles were fixed, and that was the 1931 roof, and that was partially replaced. The brick masonry was repaired, underground fuel tanks were removed, and work was done in the boilers and generators. From 2014 to 18, restrooms were redone. There are more studies on the efficiency of the boilers and the HVAC system. And in the May 2018 town meeting, the town rejected the proposal to replace the boilers, do certain upgrades to the building, improve the HVAC, and do very needed ADA improvements. That was rejected to do one more study, believe it or not, which we hope and we intend will be the final study for the building.
Okay, so then bring us up to date on the committee's efforts.
Well, the Selectmen has named a 7-person committee. Their purpose is to recommend to a fall town meeting, it'll be October 7th is what our current plan is, to either renovate or build a new building, and we hope to do that in October. We have spent, since then, the beginning of the year, we've spent time developing a renovation option. We did this by researching 19 years of material that was done by Don Mills and various Dover committees, and we have also met with Don Mills. We commissioned an on-site insight a report to be done, and that was the same group that did a report on the Dover-Sherburne schools. They came up with the exact same numbers, or pretty much the exact same numbers that Don Mills had come up with earlier. In so doing, we're going to recommend a $13 million enhanced renovation that could include a new heating HVAC system for the building, ADA necessary upgrades, some structural changes inside the building envelope, an enhanced entrance with a greeting center and a community meeting space. Some of us call it a cafe, the Caryl Cafe. Internal room improvements to meet programming objectives is important. We've also visited and talked to approximately 15 towns in the eastern Massachusetts area. Most towns with similar size and demographics to Dover have really done nothing. They operate out of town halls and use additional buildings like churches or school buildings. The exception really is Stowe, Weston, which is a little larger than us, but I think we can compare to them, and they have done true community buildings. Larger neighborhoods like Wellesley, Natick, Lexington, and Sharon have unbelievable community centers. They've done a great job, but they're a lot larger. We were impressed with the Wellesley Tolles Parsons Senior Center, which is a 12,400 square foot building, which I think we've added to the Stowe and Weston comparison. So based on a new, if we did it 18,000 square foot new building, we used $700 per square foot as our cost, and we came up with $13,500,000. That would include the $1 million estimate to demolish the existing building.
Okay, and then so what programs do you see in both community center options?
Really sort of continuing what we're doing, but enhance it greatly. Offices for the COA and Park and Rec that meet their core programming requirements would have to be in there. Shared activity rooms we would put in, which would support dance, aerobic exercise, stretching and balance programs, spin and rowing, billiards we could add, ping pong, some places do that, board games, martial arts, music activities, theater rehearsals, committee meeting spaces, lunches, parties, private parties and both town parties, lectures, art programs, book clubs. All of that could be done. Most of it is done already in the building, but that could be done in a shared spaces. We're figuring roughly 7 shared spaces, of which 1 or 2 might be a lot larger rooms, which you would need, and they'll definitely need those for rehearsals or lunches. The building, most of all, needs to be welcoming. It needs to be designed for the community, a magnet that brings the people together, and I think that's very much. You've heard enough from me.
Yeah, no.
But we want to get out the facts, so let's open it up
Joanne
to my friends.
Valerie. Yeah. So what is? Let's start with you. What's your vision for the Caryl Community Center?
Sure. So Park and Rec we implement and rerun recreational programs for all ages in the Dover community, and we also take care of the lands, parkland, and the lands of the town buildings. But specifically for the community center, we've been really focusing on trying to bring people in and provide them with the programs that they're very interested in having their children attend or attending as adults. And I feel like we've done a really good job of focusing on the younger age and adults, but I feel like we have a little bit of a gap with the middle and the high school age groups. And I think that whether we renovate or build new, we can address some of those gaps through just updating or upgrading the buildings. Two of the things that are challenging right now for us, the technology in the building, there's different Wi-Fi systems, and so for us to provide some sort of a technology program in the Caryl Community Center right now is a challenge. Whether it's just they don't have the technology that we need to be able to provide the program, or the technology is not reliable, so the internet is kind of fading in and out, which makes it difficult when you're trying to run a classroom.
In an old building, that's difficult to make it work.
Right. And then the second thing is air conditioning. So it gets very hot in the summer, which really limits the programs we can offer in the summertime. So those are two things that we would love to see upgraded, regardless of which option the community chooses.
Could you bring your camp programs in, like on a rainy day? You could bring them in the summer. And
Yeah, so right now the camp program is run through at the elementary school at Chickering. And so what we have done when we don't have the appropriate space that we need at the Caryl Community Center, we will look to other organizations, other buildings. So we have been able to use the schools, but they have a heavy usage just from the school program. So it's tough to find that space. We've also collaborated with places like Poesit Farm to provide cooking classes for various age groups and adults. So those are things that maybe we could do more of at the Caryl Community Center in the future.
Okay, and then Joanne, how do you see the Caryl Community Center?
Well, I think it's greatly needed. I think right now we have something that's called a community center, which really doesn't function as a community center, even though it does house two of our great organizations, Park and Rec and the Council on Aging. And speaking as a vice chair of Council on Aging, I know that we're all very interested, those on the board and so forth, in having more up-to-date facilities. I mean, mostly everything that Val suggested, I go, yes, that's exactly right. I mean, it's hard getting the technology to work, and we use it for so many of our programs and so forth. And just we do a lot of luncheons for the more seniors who need those kinds of things for socializing and so forth. And we don't have a kitchen that functions, and that's a huge thing. So everything has to be catered, or we have to go to outside spaces. So we share many. It's interesting. I don't think I've ever sat and listened to Park and Rec's kind of thing, interest before, but we share them, and we just would like, the welcoming, I think, is so important. Right now, when you walk into the building, one would think that it was a daycare center only, and that's great. I love serving all those children and so forth, but we'd like a building or a space that welcomes everyone in the community and makes them feel like they're part of, and when they walk in, they can be directly directed to the correct place to go and what their needs are. I also love the fact of having a community center where we can weave one fabric together for the town of Dover. I think right now, they're the seniors, and they're the sportsmen, and the little kids and so forth, but there's not a tremendous amount of blending together. As a grandparent, we have two sets of grandchildren, one in Westwood, which we see all the time, and then other ones down in Georgia. And, it's so nice. I think if they don't have any grandparents or any spirit, I think it would be wonderful for them to have a place where there was a nice mixing. And we've been trying to do a lot of programs with Chickering School and so forth. And we try and engage a lot of the junior high and high school to come and help with technology and things like that. But I think the feeling is right now, there are many seniors that definitely want the space. I think everybody wants the space. I don't know of anyone who just wants something torn down and nothing replaced in it. There are those that would be very, very happy with a nice renovation, with a caveat, and that is the caveat that it was renovation to the point, exactly what Ford addressed, a welcoming environment and a feeling when you come in, it's our community. And hopefully the kids' programs can go under the Park and Rec, which I think would be the plan, and just not be the prime focus thing. So I think that's very important. And I think there are also some seniors who, say if we've got the opportunity to tear down and build new, that's always good too. I don't think there's a cohesive feeling right now among the seniors, from my perspective at any rate. And I must admit, sometimes I'm on one side and then the other. But overall, I would say everybody that I know that falls into the senior population is very definitely in favor of having a community center and feels the need for it. Those of us that were lucky enough to bring our children up in Dover and are still here really know the benefits of having a place to go to and recreate with and do other things with their friends from back, way back.
Yeah. I love your comment about weaving the community together. I think that's not the exact word, but I think that's so important, is because so much I think of Dover is sort of living in their different silos.
I agree.
And to be able to bring them together, and that's where when I walked into Wellesley Senior Center, and I see this coffee place, and I thought, young and old and all kinds of people could meet there for a cup of coffee instead of going to Needham or Medfield. Have a cup of coffee there, and then go do your programs. And if the building is run right, one entity is running it. That would all happen, and you can do that both in new and renovation. I mean,
absolutely,
there's no separate there.
I mean, I think there's a real opportunity with renovating to do exactly that. And I think there's obviously a wonderful way if you build new. The one thing that I've heard from all of the different places that I've gone to, which is kind of interesting, that have done new, almost the day we opened, we were too small. Because when you have a well renovated or a new building, everybody wants to come.
Sure.
It just
Is we're talking about 13 million roughly, and those are really guesstimates at this point.
Yeah.
But to the best of our experience, that would come up at. Is that frightening, to any of our demographics? And when I think of 13 million, I think we figured the median household would cost about $380 a year. That's a tax increase, and already you hear taxes are too high. But that's one thing this committee needs to find out is do we have an appetite to, whether it's renovation or new, Dan, is to spend that, that 13, commit to that 13 million. And I'm going to go over the phases in a few minutes, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that you'll have people kind of spread out among the spectrum, but I think as long as people find value in this building, that there's something there for them, I think that they would be more willing to look at that cost impact. So I think it's extremely important that we get a lot of feedback from the community about the different programs and the ways that they would like to use this building, so that we make sure it does appeal to everyone within our community, so everyone feels value from that building.
And I agree with you, Ford. I think when you say 13 million, that's like overwhelming, especially with the older seniors who have been here for a long time and they've seen their taxes increase, and they think of community center and they probably think a lot of the, satisfying the young people.
And
which
they've
is
been waiting a
great.
long time for a community
They have
center.
been waiting for a long time. But I think that to have a nice breakdown and really let them know what it will mean for you, or even some sort of a tool where if your house is assessed at this is approximately what your increase will be. Because when you break it down to a couple $100 or whatever the number is, it's a lot more palatable than 13 million. Just sounds overwhelming.
So much of it is what you get back from it too, though.
Yes.
I mean, I think that you've mentioned the need for a functional kitchen and for more technology access, as I think maybe you talk more about some of these programs that would really add this value that you're seeking. If there's other ones that you're also thinking of, like what other programs that we can't do now can we suddenly do? If you have thoughts or ideas on those.
Sure. So, I know one of the things that has been a topic within the school system is sleep and the need of sleep for kids. And so I think that this building has the potential to be a good adjunct space for programs to be held earlier in the day, so that kids aren't waiting until 8 p.m. for a room to open up so then they can have their program. So I think that may be one way that we can provide that value to
and with the new school hours, that may become very important.
Sure, right? Definitely. So, and in particular, I'm just thinking the gym in the Caryl Community Center is a very limited gym, so there's no basketball hoops for anyone really over the age of about 5. So we can bring in some mobile basketball hoops, but the structure of that gym is no longer sound enough to allow us to be able to have like a real gym. So if that were something that could happen in the future, then there could be some of those programs that utilize that gym space that could happen earlier and assist the community that way.
We could have a gym. And when I looked at the middle school gym and I looked at the size of it, that would be perfect. But that's going to be another $6 million or so.
There's a price for everything.
So there's a price for everything. And well, that's the right time now. But if the building is built correctly or renovated correctly, you may be able to leave space. So in the future, that could
Something
be done.
could be added on.
Yeah,
Because that could be used by young and old alike.
Well, that's the history of the building too. Is that there were additions made over the years.
Correct.
So.
There's another thing that I look back and as much as we enjoyed the town and our boys benefited from the town growing up, and there were wonderful park and rec programs that they all did, they both went off to private school in junior high and high school, and there was no place for them to come back.
Sure.
And really hang with their friends and go on a Saturday and I think, boy, that would have been really
Nice
a
to
cool
have.
thing.
Yeah.
All of us that way
So-
could connect.
Right.
You know?
I love the
Right.
idea of having a place where Well, even just, you want to go for a walk today? Good. You're over here, I'm over here. We walk, we meet and have a cup of coffee or something. I think it just will bring the town together in a great way.
No, you make a very
I
good
agree.
point, because as you know, right now, I'm talking to Council on Aging, I'm talking to Parks and Rec,
Yeah.
but there are other groups that can come into
Absolutely.
a more renovated or,
Yeah.
or completely new building, because right now you're still limited on space. So.
And one thing everybody should know is Park and Rec and COA work very well together in
Yes.
terms of the building. I mean, that's going on, but it can be better.
Right, absolutely.
And I think that's sort of the goal.
Right.
You mentioned communication. We are trying to reach out as much as possible. We have a website you can go to. We have various forums. We're going to have one on June 4th and June 10th in the town hall, which we're going to invite as many people as we can. We've been attending Council on Aging lunches and programs. You were at where the other day?
The fishing derby,
Yeah.
and we were also at art night at the Chickering Elementary School.
Yeah, so, and I know with Dover Foundation, we were there, so we're trying to reach out as many people. We know that the difficulty is summer is approaching, but not everybody leaves town.
Right.
So,
But it is the best time in town.
It is. It's the best
For
summer
those of us
community
that
there
stay.
is. But imagine if we had an air-conditioned building
Oh.
Yes.
that people could use
With a lounge.
comfortably with a lounge of some kind. So it could be used, and it could be a destination place for seniors, for example, who it may not have air conditioning in their home,
Right,
but could
right.
go.
But there's another interesting, and this is kind of goes along with Park and Rec in a way. Right now, there are a lot of people of all ages who might have some sort of a condition that, for instance, I cannot take exercises class there because in the wintertime it is so darn hot up in that library, and in the summer, and I have a heart condition, so. And a lot of people are affected by that. You don't realize it until you sort of get into that situation.
Sure.
And I think, we definitely need a very good renovation or a great new building. And
Sure.
we'll leave it up to the town to decide. But
Yeah. Let me sort of come back to what our stages are, what we're planning to do, if I can.
Right.
We're currently in what we call phase one of a three-part process. And what we did is we obviously looked at what the renovation costs and what we expect that to be, what the new, and I gave you some background on that. Those are the two choices we're going to have. But what if those two choices didn't happen? Obviously, there's going to be a fallback. And the fallback would be continue doing what we're doing right now. And we, as best as we can figure out using the on-site insight report and some of the other documents that Don Mills and the previous committees did, that's roughly a $5 to $10 million process over the next 20 years. We know it's $5 to $6, $7 million right now. So this is a $5 to $10 million process. So that would be a fallback. Obviously, the fourth fallback is tear it down. That makes no sense, 0 sense, because you got to figure out where the departments are going to go, if anything else. But the phase one is we want to hear from you, the voters, because we're not going to make the decision. You are going to make the decision whether you want to do renovation or new. The committee is going to stay neutral. We're hoping my friends to the left and other people will not stay neutral, and they will, come up with a consensus somehow, some way over the next months in front of us. But that's when the town meeting is going to have to come up and speak what they want to do. And then after the October 7th town meeting, if we get new or renovation, then we go to phase two. And phase two is when the committee is then given some money. We have roughly $200,000 in the bank now, a little less because we've used some of it, but roughly $200,000. We'd probably need another $100,000 to $200,000. And what we do is hire a owner's project manager, and that is the company or the person that's going to guide the program going forward, working with the building committee. We will also hire an architect at the same time. The architect, the project manager, and the committee then work with the community to decide exactly what they want in the building, and from that, schematics are drawn up. Those will be the design design plans that everybody's waiting for. How can I vote for something if I don't know the design? I get that. But we first want to find out, is there a willingness to pay if the design was what we wanted, the 13 million or whatever it is. So then we'd have a design. Community, I stress that. When I've done this before, that's so important. You come up with a design, you present that to a town meeting, and that would be roughly the following fall. It takes a year to do that.
Sure.
At that stage, we would ask for the 13 million or whatever, and it would be bonded, and it would be for the design build. So the final design would be there, all the working documents would be there. You would have a not to exceed amount, so whatever that amount is, they have to stick to that. And you do the design build. That process takes approximately a year to do, and then you start construction. So this is not an immediate thing. It's a good idea. That's why we want to move it along now as quickly. So that's the process and how it works. So, until then, we have to keep the building going.
Right. Well, and I think that it's interesting that you're trying to remain neutral on what the position is. So that means that you're going to be looking at sort of what are the pros and cons of both and
Correct.
presenting them to the voters. So where can voters go for more information? You have a forum coming up.
We have a forum on June 4th and another one on June 10th. It'll be in the Great Hall in the town hall. Watch for those notices. I assume around 7:30 will be that. It's going to be televised by you guys, the SCTV.
Yeah.
So this will be the hot program for you for the whole summer till the fall.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone.
So get excited.
And then you mentioned a website earlier.
There is a website, and we'll get that information out. Out too. You can also go to the town website, and that'll direct you. So.
Okay. And what other?
And then anybody can always contact me if they want, and I'm reachable.
So, Ford, aren't we also looking for volunteers to do neighborhood parties? Or
We are volunteering for. Thank you, Joanne. We need people who will have neighborhood coffees, get-togethers, or anything, or any groups that are out there that would like us. Somebody from our committee or a stakeholder will show up and help you. So you're right. There will be signs out around the town, and we'll be doing that, and hopefully flyers. But it's hard to get people interested over the summer, but be interested. It's important.
Right. And
Well,
I believe
or at least come back from your time away in the summer or in the fall.
And we'll hit you big in September.
Yeah.
and I believe the website is carylproject.com.
Oh,
Okay.
bless you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay. So I don't know if there's anything else to add. I think
Anything more you want to
half
add?
an hour.
I think that was a great
Great.
summary.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you
We appreciate
all
it.
for coming in.
And
basically just everyone be on the lookout for more information.
Exactly.
And we'll definitely be talking about this through the fall when the town meeting occurs.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
thanks.
Thank you very much.